What's up, people? I'm gonna go ahead and give you a rig rundown on my truck and my camping setup. So let's take a little bit of a closer look on what I did, why I did it. Big dog. There he goes! There he goes! Xeya, go get him! Go get him! Go get him! Alright, so let's go over the truck real quick. This is a 2013 Chevrolet Silverado 1500 with the LTZ Z71 4x4 package. That was how it started out in a stock trim. So what I did to it as far as chassis and engine are concerned, I kept it pretty basic. Big thing for me is I wanted to gain capability, yet I wanted to be robust and reliable. So one of the first things you'll notice, obviously, are probably the wheels and the tires and the dogs. What are you after, dog? Come on, get it! Get it! Get it! So anyway, I decided to go with a 6-inch Pro Comp Stage 2 coil overlift on this thing. I needed to do that to fit these 35-inch tires. I went with 35s. Why? Why did I go with 18-inch wheels and 35-inch tires? Because this truck needs to serve multiple purposes. I daily drive it. It was used for work. It was going to job sites carrying tools and materials. And it's also a recreational vehicle. I mean, it's a straight up recreational vehicle. I take it out off-roading and camping. It's getting used for everything. This truck has been put through the ringer. So I needed to find that balance between something that could drive around town, could hit the highways, but could also hit the trails, right? And that's what we're all here for. We all want to hit the trails and we all want to go camping. So that Pro Comp kit, 6-inch lifter, made room for the 35-inch tires. Those are 35 by 12.5s. I've run multiple different tires. Right now I've got Nitto trail grapplers on there. I've run Toyos, I've run Pro Comps, I've run BFGs, all that. You run through them, you try different stuff. They've all been good tires. All the name brand tires are good. We won't get too hung up on that. But another major thing that happened with that lift and tire combination is the re-gearing, which you can't see because that's tucked away in our differentials. But I re-geared this truck to 4.56 on the ring and pinion. I went a little bit up because I could have went with a 410, but I decided to go 4.56 because I knew I was going to do a lot of off-road. Okay, and the only other thing I really did was upper control arms. So there you go. It's got a lift kit, it's got upper control arms, it's got wheels, tires, it was re-geared, and obviously I had to buy a programmer to calibrate for the change in the gearing and the tire size. Other than that, all I've done to this truck is one, I put a Flowmaster muffler on it, which has seen better days. Makes it sound good, but I went with like a touring style. Give it a little bit of throat, but it's not too crazy. And then the only other thing is a K&N intake. That's it. This truck is stock. Other than that, I've done nothing to it. I didn't even, you know, I've experimented with some transmission tunes with the programmer, but I ended up going back on that and leaving it stock just because, you know, I just wanted to keep it simple and reliable. Well, I guess I put the battery in there. I got an Odyssey, but hey, you change batteries over time. So that's it. The truck is super simple, mostly stock. All I did was give myself a little bit of ground clearance, give myself a little bit of bigger rotating mass, bigger tires, more traction, and re-gear it. Simple, concise, and to the point. Reliable. So you get people out there that are in the different camps, right? You get those individuals that mod it to the moon. You get people that don't do nothing. Then you get people kind of like me that find that middle ground. Why do I do that? I want it to be super reliable. I'm going out to places that are remote. Oftentimes I go by myself. Literally just me and the dogs. No other vehicles, no other people. A lot of times out of cell phone reception. I want reliable. I want dependable. I want robust. I want things that turn over every time. Things that go round and round and round and just keep going and get a bunch of miles. That's why we didn't go crazy. That's why we don't got all kinds of wild modifications on this thing. Okay? So let's go ahead and dig into the camping setup a little bit. But before I go into the camping setup, which you see is ultimately a camper shell, which is a very classic and tried and true and old method. And you wonder, oh, wow, you know, all these different things going on. He's got a camper. Well, here's the deal. I'm gonna tell you right now, I started from ground up like a lot of people. I started out backpacking, camping in tents. I've slept on the ground without a tent. I've been out car camping with a tent, slept on the ground. I've done the air mattress in the bed of the truck. I've done the rooftop tent. I've done a combination of various setups, and this is what I ended up with. And that's, you know, kind of the purpose of this video is to show, you know, I've been around the different setups, and I ended up coming to this. And this setup, for me, makes a lot of sense. So let's go ahead and dig into it. But I'm also going to include you guys with some pictures of my previous setups and some other trips I've done, just to kind of show you, you know, how this has grown, how it's progressed, why the original setup and the modifications I made with the truck have worked out ultimately to how we've ended up with this camper. So let's look in this camper and see what we've got. So the simple overview of the camping setup is a truck cap, drawer system, and mattress platform. So if we look a little closer at the frame, you see I've got plywood, some 2x4s, so we got Douglas fir pine combinations, and some 1x6 slats running back in there. And you'll see that I've got it in two parts. Now, the reason I did this in two parts is because sometimes I camp solo, sometimes I take a friend, my girlfriend usually, and sometimes some of my buddies. So I could sleep alone, I could sleep with someone else in here, okay? And there's also other cargo configurations, because you'll notice that right now the bed is taking up basically 100% of that space up there. So anything that doesn't fit in the drawers, height-wise, you can't fit into here. But what I was thinking when I did this, and actually this memory foam mattress is actually cut down the middle. I actually cut this so that on occasion where maybe I'm doing extended trips and I'm solo, I can flip this mattress over, double layer it on one side or the other, and before you do that, you would obviously move one half of the plywood onto the other, and I can clear up height. Like, for example, if I wanted to put 5-gallon fuel tanks in here, I could pull this board out, flip the mattress over, I can move some slats around, and I could stick a fuel tank in there, something like that. That was part of the engineering that went into this originally. Another thing I did is I engineered these drawers so they have no moving parts. This achieved multiple things. One, it was cheap because I wasn't buying drawer sliders or, you know, fabricating other methods to put these things on bearings or wheels, which has its pros and cons. Okay, the pros is, one, it's cheap. Two, it's robust and reliable. There's not much that can fail on these drawers. That's the pro. It's cheap, it's robust. The con is they're a little bit hard to move, especially once you fill them up. Like right now, it doesn't have a lot of stuff in it, but it's a little bit difficult to move. The other pro to that is, you see how far I've got this pulled out. Like if you look at I won't call anyone out by their name, but there are some systems you can buy that are really nice, really high quality factory manufactured systems, but you can't pull your drawer out that far. I'm telling you right now. This drawer, look at it. That thing's out within like 2 inches of the end. You're getting the full length of that drawer, which is, I'd have to measure for sure, but it's roughly, the inside dimension of this is probably like 5'7", 5'8". So you got a lot of drawer, ton of drawer. So that's why I did that. You know, you got to have that combination of cost and functionality. For me, you know, I'm always thinking robust, 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 tough, longevity. So it's not a big deal for me to deal with a little bit of extra muscling things around, because there's just not a lot that can fail. So that's the drawers, right? So a lot of people are going to wonder about the bed, right? That's kind of the crown jewel of the whole thing. So I've got a 3-inch memory foam mattress in here I bought from Bed Bath & Beyond. I don't remember the manufacturer that made this particular one. I paid a pretty good price for it. You can find cheaper versions, but it was one of those deals, like online, for example. You can go online and probably buy one for like 150 bucks. I paid like $350 for this guy, but it was just one of those things where I could go there and I could buy it right now. I could have it, and that was where I was at when I was doing this build. I was like, you know what? I want this thing today. So I went out and I bought one and I had it. I paid a hefty penny for it. Overall, it's pretty good. When it was brand new, like, I was hardly sinking down to the wood. Now that it's a little bit old, it does seem to kind of have worn in a little bit, and throughout the night you will start to touch down on the wood. Over time, you will collapse depending on how your body position is, but I sleep pretty good on it for camping. The girlfriend, she sleeps pretty good on it. So we're pretty happy with it, but I would think generally most people probably want to go a little thicker, and that's something you have to consider on this type of build, because this is just I'll call it a standard truck cap, where it's lined up with the cab height. You can get higher versions, okay? That's something you got to consider when doing this. is your mattress height and your truck cab height, because you're going to be making a compromise when you're getting in and out of this thing, and your ability to change your clothes or just do things inside the truck cab. It's cramped in here, you know, so we have to plan things as far as changing your clothes, like I pointed out, and additionally, like if you wake up in the morning and you want to make coffee or do something before you get up and out, it can be kind of difficult in there to kind of fit everything and make it happen. Basically, the way we've got it set up is you're mostly just sleeping. There's not a lot of room for doing other things in here. You can't sit up, but it works good. So what I'll do is I'll tie this into some of my other setups I've had and why I'm okay with these compromises. Like I stated before, I've slept on the ground without a tent. I've slept on the ground in tents. I've slept in this truck with an air mattress, just in the bed, open bed, just put an air mattress in there. I had a rooftop tent for a period of time. And then I went to this. So there was a variety of conditions, locations I went through. We're talking, you know, dry, hot, rain, sleet, snow, mud, all of it. Okay. And I'll go to the rooftop tent. Okay. When I had the rooftop tent, which was actually really cool, I had the Smitty built. I fabricated a base for it out of aluminum, and it was great. It was legit. But there were some trips I went on and things that happened that I kind of got worn out on the rooftop tent because, one, the setup. The problem with a rooftop tent is you have to set it up and tear it down every time you move. And we had it dialed in. I had it dialed in. I could do it about 5 minutes either way. No big deal. But first problem was, went up to the Pacific Northwest, and as you know, around that region, it rains a lot. And I did an extended trip up there with a friend of mine, and it rained every night. So we're in the tent. Okay, we stayed dry. We're fine. But when we put that tent away, it was wet every time. And I got in the habit of storing my sleeping bag in there so I didn't have to pack that up. And after a couple days, for one, the moisture kind of starts to seep through to anything you leave inside of the tent. So the tents have mattresses, and if you're leaving your bags in there, they do start to get kind of wet and damp after about 2 or 3 days. That was happening. And beyond that, after the trip was over, I think we spent like 9 days on that trip, and we got rained on probably 6 or 7 of those days. When I got home, everything was wet, and I had to literally, I get home to Las Vegas, and you know, it's dry there. So I had to pop that tent out and like dry it out for hours because I don't want mildew or mold to build up. So I was kind of like, okay, you know, there's a major flaw to the rooftop tent setup. And then I had another trip. Me and these two maniac dogs went out to the Grand Canyon, and we off-roaded for like 3 or 4 days. And on the last night, we got snowed on. And it wasn't like super thick snow, like maybe 1 or 2 inches, but it built up overnight, and it was really cold. I don't remember what the temperature was, but it was cold, 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 like beyond freezing. We were probably in the teens, if I had to guess. And when I woke up that morning, I went to put the tent away, and it was like, everything was like solid. It was crispy. I literally, I probably could have forced it, but I was just like, I didn't want to. I was like, you know what, we're gonna go hike for a couple hours and let the sun hit this thing and thaw it out. That tent was like frozen solid when we woke up. So it impeded our ability to leave. And that was my decision, was to let it thaw out for a couple hours before I tried to put it away, rather than run the risk of like harming the material by everything being frozen and crunching it up. So it kind of bothered me, because I was like, yeah, you know, look at that. The rooftop tent, you can't just put it away and leave. You gotta let this thing thaw. Hence, the camper setup. That's where this really makes a lot of sense regardless of whether you're tent camping, rooftop tent camping, camping in the bed of the truck, whatever you're doing. This is so deployable. Like, look at this. Aside from anything that you may add or remove in your personal process, you look at this thing. It's got a mattress. It's got sleeping bags. The pillows are already in there. It's set up. Okay? The drawers are in. So what do you got? A tailgate and a lid. That's it. So if I'm out anywhere in the world, I don't care where you are, you're driving down the road, it's raining cats and dogs. You pull over, you park on a flat spot, you get out, you walk over here, and you're getting like rained on. You hurry up, you open this, you open this, you jump in, you kick your shoes off. That's a whole another thing, storing shoes, but you can, usually what we'll do is we either have a, I have this tray that I'll pull out and we'll set in here, or we just take grocery bags or trash bags and we stick our muddy, wet shoes in those bags and we tuck them on the sides of where we're sleeping. There's plenty of room, you know, if there's 2 people in here. And that's what we do. You jump in, you take your shoes off, you go to sleep. You're done. There's no setup. There's nothing. There's no rolling up sleeping bags. There's no rolling up muddy tents. You ain't doing none of that. You're off the ground. You're clean. That's why I ended up with this setup. I sold my rooftop tent. I sold my rack with it. And I said I needed something that didn't interfere with my other activities. Because when I'm out camping, I'm not going camping to sleep. I'm going camping so that I can be out hiking, I can be out exploring, I can be doing whatever I'm doing, my destination. This is just simply to facilitate me overnight. And that's why this setup makes a whole lot of sense, because I can get in and out of it quickly and I can move on to my next spot or my next activity. Another thing I got to point out, where do the dogs sleep? Not in the bed with me. Oh, and some of the dog owners may say, you don't sleep with the dogs? No, we don't sleep with the dogs. But here's what I've done in the back seat for the doggos. Look at these little freaking doggos. Look, they're like ready to get in because they've been running in the snow for like 30 minutes. Look at them. Are you going to get in there? Come on, show them how it works. Show them how it works. Get in there, Zay. So what I did, I went to Harbor Freight. I've got like 3 moving blankets in here stacked in various ways. I'm not going to go too into depth with that, but I've just configured it to kind of contain the dogs to the back seat. And as you can see, I've got them fully, I won't say fully encapsulated, but they're quite encapsulated. This piece comes around the seats and it contains the dog hair from getting all around the cab, and it kind of gives them a little bubble so that when I throw some blankets down and stuff in here, they have slept in some very cold temperatures, like that story that I just mentioned about the rooftop tent being stolen and the, you know, whatever teen temperatures. They were in here and they were fine. And they can stay really warm because the cab holds heat decently well. We've slept in the cab. I say we as in me and the dogs and my girlfriend and other friends. I've slept in the seat and had the dogs in the back seat in various climate conditions, and that's another thing we've done. I've slept in the seats. You know, I've tried multiple things. The dogs stay pretty warm in here. You give them some blankets, layer them up with a bunch of stuff, kind of cocoon them with these movers blankets, and they can hold some heat, and they huddle up together and they sleep really well. And that's where the dogs sleep, and I sleep in the back. One of the pitfalls to this is these doggos like to get out, and they usually need to get out at least once a night. You know, you gotta let them out to use the restroom or whatever. Sometimes they trigger on sounds that are going on. So that sucks, because when you're back here and you're, you know, if you're stripped down to your underwear or whatever, you got to pop out and you got to let these dogs out, and they do this they get this little routine going where they're like tap dancing in the back, and I don't know if they're just getting comfortable, if they got to use the restroom. So I get in the habit of letting them out once to twice a night, usually not more than that, because they're pretty well regimented. They don't need to get out multiple times. They figured out the routine. But that's something you got to consider, because when you're in this low-lying top, which I'll do a quick kind of review of before I'll lay down in there with the camera and show you how cramped it is and what it takes to get in and out, why that's important if you have dogs with you. Because even if you're sleeping with them in the back, you're still gonna have to pop that tailgate to let your dog in and out in the middle of the night. And you know, if you start doing some forward thinking on that, you can see the amount of complications that could come with having a dog. So for me, the back seat setup makes a ton of sense for the dogs. They got their own contained area that's for travel and for sleep. That way I can minimize their impact on the overall vehicle, the overall experience. I've got a clean space to sleep. They've got their own space to sleep. Everybody ends up pretty happy. They do pretty well with that, even on long-term trips. So it works. All right, so let's do a little climbing into the back thing, kind of show you what that's about when you got these low top campers, right? So what we'll do is we normally pop up, come up on the tailgate, come up on the bed, and then you're cramped, you know what I mean? I'm about 5'8". I can't sit up like this, but what happens next is you pop your boots off. Now I've come up with a few methods. Sometimes we'll set the cooler down on the ground when we're out camping, and we'll just throw our boots or our shoes on the cooler. I've also done a method where I will, once I pop the tailgate up, you can set your boots down on the bumper, right? That works as well. We've done that multiple times. But if you're in an area where you're worried about critters, you might want to bring them inside. So we usually keep trash bags, and look, Honda wants to come in. What you doing, Diggy Dig? We'll keep trash bags and garbage bags, because trash bags and garbage bags. We'll keep grocery bags, because you're gonna go shopping when you go camping anyway. So you accumulate these grocery bags, and boots and shoes fit in them fine. And then we'll just pop them in a corner, right? And you gotta pretty much pop your boots off right away, because they're usually dirty or whatever. That's really a major consideration. And then you're in. You pop your boots to the side, and you know, undressing's a little bit of an art. Some people just sleep in their clothes. I've tried that. We'll strip down to our thermals, our underwears, whatever. But it works. It's a decent setup. Another little mod I'll show you I did. I bought these lights from Harbor Freight. I've got 4 of them. I've got the standard light switch type here towards the tailgate, and then I've got a variable intensity version up by our heads. I've got those on all 4 sides. Can't see that one, but it's over there. Those come from Harbor Freight. I forget what I paid for them, but not very much. The reason I put those in there is they're always mounted. They've got Velcro and magnets to them. So like if I wanted to, for example, I can move them to the truck, to the steel. They also stick there. And then on this carpeted material on the truck cap, the Velcro sticks to that, and they stay there pretty reliably. I've driven, you know, thousands of miles with them like that. Those are cool because they're always there. You know, I could change the batteries once or twice throughout the year. They hold up, and once you open the cap, regardless of whether you have a flashlight or a headlamp or whatever, you got a little light you can turn on. And obviously here in the day they don't seem all that, but in the night they illuminate the area pretty good. And then when you wake up at night, if you need to do something, find your drink, or you know, get ready to pop your shoes on to go out to use the restroom, you can pop those lights on real quick. They're always there. They're reliably located, so you can just reach over, turn them on, do what you're doing. Well, that's a bit of an overview of this truck and the camping setup I'm using here. I realized it was kind of sporadic and went on various subjects and covered some topics and not some others, but we'll see if some people express some interest, and kind of what I did and how I did it. It's kind of a, you know, half store-bought with the truck cap and a half home-built with the platform. So anyways, if some people are more interested and this video gets some attention, or people start dropping comments, things like that, maybe I'll tear out the mattress and go into a more in-depth discussion of how I built it, because obviously I saved a lot of money from things you can buy. Dollar amount I don't have off the top of my head, but I bought this truck cap used, and I bought this wood even when the wood prices were high during the pandemic, and I saved a ton of money from what you're going to commercially buy out there. But you had to have some tools and some know-how and a little bit of imagination to make all that happen. So let's see if we get some attention or some people ask, or maybe I'll just do a follow-up video anyway of how this was constructed. Anyways, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for checking it out. Like I say, if you got any questions, comments, put them in there. Just give me some ideas for things to do in the future. And you guys know the drill. Like, subscribe, share, put it into the channel. That way, you know, we can get some more incentive, some more motivation to put more into it as far as the cinematography and efforts involved. Because, hey, it might be fun, but it is work. So give us a reason to keep doing what we're doing, and we'll make it happen for you. So let's see what the doggos are getting into, and we'll move on with our lives. Hondo's keying in on something. Baby girl's already halfway up the hill. Xeya, come show us something. Come on. Oh, here she comes. Oh. Oh, what are you doing? Go get him! Go get him!